Osio doichu, do kuno khalid another khonagi se cholagi hanianuya. Welcome to another edition of the Indigenous Peoples News Network. I have been absent for a while. I had sustained an injury on the job a couple of months back, not long after I did my last broadcast. There was a lot of therapy, and I had some other personal issues that I had to deal with in the meantime. However, um, to my listening audience, you have been on my mind more than you can imagine. Um, so many things going on in the country and in the world, in particular with the government. Um, a lot of protests taking place in Japan. Excuse me, China, and Hong Kong, um, and a lot of cataclysmic events. If you taken the time to realize that the weather patterns are severely irregular right now, and when I say this with great apprehension, because these weather patterns, the wars that are taking place, the conflicts, the protests, rumors of wars, all of these are indicators of the end times of this current world. And when I say this current world, I'm not talking about the planet itself. The planet Earth is always going to exist. Um, I'm referring to an idea or a way of thinking that is on its way out. OCO, sister, how are you? Can you hear me? Oh, great. It's been a while. It's been a while since I've been on, and I had put my computer and my mic and everything up because of injury that I sustained, and on the job, work related accident, should I say? And I hooked everything up. I was like, okay, I hope I got my audio back. So yeah, it's good to hear from you, sister. I'm glad you're okay. I'm hoping all is well with you and your family. It's been a while again since I've been on, and I always come with a heavy heart and information to help guide some of our brothers and sisters to a safe place. And when I mean that, I'm not just talking about physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, um, with so much suffering taking place. Again, with the protests, and we are not immune to protests. We're having them. Oh, great! I'm glad. I am so glad that you're doing well. So glad. How are the babies? So yeah, with the protests, conflicts around the world, here in the United States, so much, with Donald Trump, the president, uh, the right wing extremists that they like. I don't really like that term, right wing extremists. It takes away from who they really are. Hey, there goes my uncle Uncle Anthony, how you doing? It's been a while, Unc. That's good. That's good, sister. Yes, they're supposed to keep growing. That's right. Keep feeding them that nourishment that they need. Yeah. And one love to my uncle. My uncle Anthony's on here. Um, yeah. Peace be upon you too, Unc. I'm glad. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad. Every time I come down to the Bronx, 'cause I'm there like every other weekend, but I'm down there to work. I have a small business down in the Bronx still. So when the weekend comes and I'm away from my full-time job, I head down to the Bronx to take care of clients. Got to keep making that money. Hey, Unc, I got into some information about the Bitcoin cryptocurrency and the gold, the carrot bars. I'll talk to you. I'm gonna definitely have to talk to you about it because I'm getting ready to make an investment. Yeah, I'm getting ready to make an investment soon. So I'll talk to you about that. I remember you put me onto it, and I spoke to another brother recently, and he got into a little detail going down to your aunt's house to have her meet some brothers and sisters she has never met. Which aunt? Which aunt? So many. So many. Yeah. I didn't want to stray too far from the topic of what I wanted to speak on today. Yeah, with regards to um, uh, what's going on around the country, around the world, and the things that are soon to follow. Again, with the right wing extremists quickly go to American coin company, buy a Zim note, about 50 trillion note. Okay. I'm Aunt Pamela. I don't believe I've ever met her. Huh. Um, you have my if you have a picture of her, you have my cell phone number, please. Send me a picture of her. I know I haven't met her personally. Um and that would definitely be something I want, because so many of relatives I have not met yet. And I still haven't met my sister, my dad's other daughter, who was like 6 months younger than me. So yeah, definitely send me a picture of her, man. Aunt Pamela. Wow. I know I have a few of them out there. I don't have any pictures or anything like that. So yeah, call me, call me. 718-682-3030, 3030. Number hasn't changed, still the same. All right. Um when I listen to Fox, Fox News, MSNBC, and the like, CNN, all of these mainstream news stations, and they're becoming a little more uh commonsensical in their thinking. They're not just saying right wing extremists. They're saying white supremacy now. Wow, would have thunk it 5 years ago, even a year or two ago. you wouldn't have heard you wouldn't have heard these people speaking like the way they are now. I still don't like to use the term. And when they're engaged in their conversations, talking about these white supremacists, these violent uh, organizations, these militias, they almost romanticize uh, some of these groups, and they even, to the point where I hear them chuckling, like it's funny to them to some degree. I mean, they take it to an area of seriousness, yes, But at the end of it, and I listened to them very carefully, there is almost an air of humor. I don't know if they're trying to do that to, not to get caught up in the seriousness of it, because to Black and brown people, these people are a threat to our very lives. So and you if you ever notice some of the Black guests who come onto these mainstream shows, to name a few, April Ryan and others, who have, commented about the white supremacist movements and how their numbers have quadrupled within the past couple of years. Anywhere from 1,200 to 4,000 or 5,000 groups, and it's troubling because they don't share the humor that I hear some of their white counterparts, the journalists who are on these mainstream news sites, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, etc. You don't see any smiles there because there's nothing to smile about. This is it's a serious problem. I don't care if you're Black American, a brown Native American Indian, a red Native American Indian. When they see us, the hatred that boils up within them can't be measured, but only in hatred, hate speech, and violence. His car into a crowd and killed a white woman. Oh, well, yeah, of course. But they'll kill their grandmother to get to us, Uncle. They will kill their own family to get to us. And some of these hate groups, don't let them have a family member, a cousin, a brother, or a friend talking about they get along with Black people or brown people, whatever. They'll kill their own. They will kill their own to get to us, because their ultimate goal is the eradication of the darker peoples. And there are some who are just separatists, and ultimately what they want to do is set up a state, within the United States for themselves. And some of them are of the mindset that if they have to, they will take it to a level of violence. And we're no strangers to this. This has been going on for 300 years. We are example and the victims of their hatred towards our people. If they could, with the way Trump is going and the way he's headed, if they decided they wanted to put us back into slavery, and I hear people say, "Oh, they're gonna put me back in slavery." But what standing armies do we have? What militias do we have? If Trump decided to lock the country down, declare martial law, how many militias are in the military? How many people remember Timothy McVeigh, Oklahoma City? Army? I'm not saying that it's overrun in the military with them, but I believe that they are there. Uncle, our power is in unity, our own schools, our own businesses. Yeah, I agree. But we must focus on these areas to keep ourselves powerful and productive. Yes. But as long as we have a foot on our necks and a ceiling above our heads where we can't stand up straight, it ain't gonna happen. And what I mean by that is the chokehold that they have on us through force. Okay, let me give an example. The American dollar, the toilet tissue that we use with the presidents on it, it's worthless. So what's backing the dollar? The gun. He has a bigger gun, and he's letting the rest of the world know this. If you pull back away from our dollar, we're going to go to war with you and destroy you. So how do you fight against Leviathan? That's literally what the scripture talks about. Leviathan, the beast, with the metal tentacles and, like a scorpion that can, sear the earth and destroy the oceans. And we talking about the white man and his military, right? Okay. So understanding that dynamic, and then you begin to see a bigger picture here, that there are a lot of us who desire and yearn to be free, yes, but we need land, territories of our own, and before we can even begin to adjust to having some geography, we have to learn to get along with each other. We got so many differences, so many religions, so many cultural ideals as a people. If we don't humble ourselves, what good is it? What good is it that if we have a hierarchical chain of command, and we say, I ain't working for that nigga. I ain't doing nothing for them niggas over there. Then how can we move forward? How can we work together? Look, the ants that work in the ground in the tunnel to build colonies, they're smarter than we are. They're not supposed to be, but currently they're smarter than we are, because they unify themselves and even sacrifice themselves to build a system that is conducive to their survival. Not our people. And it's sad because I'm on the grind with just about talking to brothers and sisters almost daily. And all I keep hearing from Negroes, we ain't gonna go nowhere. We ain't doing nothing. Our people too hateful. That's all I hear every day. Just about. And when I hear these things, it breaks my heart, because the God that I know said, if my people who are called by my name would turn from their wicked ways and turn towards my face, I will heal them and their land. We we're uncle. I agree with you. We, in certain circles, in certain areas, we are moving in the direction that we are supposed to, but it's not enough. If our people would suddenly say in one voice, the hell with supporting an economic program that profits only the rich in this country, when it comes down to the holiday seasons, spending seasons, our people to pull back our dollars, our coins, our money, right, and they shall be left behind. You drag no anchors. Yeah, but we have to try. Hey, look, when I owned my security company in the Bronx, that was the best and worst time of my life. I was making $1,000 a week. A black Indian with no high school diploma at the time. I have my GED, but when I didn't have it, I was making more money than people with college degrees. And I make no apologies about that, because look, I tell you, this system has everything backwards. We send our children to the public school systems to be academically proficient, to read and write, and they have no trades when they come out of school. The technical schools, vocational schools, they're making it impossible for our children to learn something that they can bring back to the communities and keep the businesses. Look, people who come from other countries come here with trades. Have we not noticed? and they set up in our communities. They are literally allowed to set up in our communities, and we say nothing. And we wouldn't have to get violent with them. Just don't spend your money. But these obvious trades, that is something that we need to service our people with the services and the products that we need to learn to take that back and work in our respective communities. Now, I live in Connecticut now, and I'm in the old community that I grew up in for 49 years. It was Black, Latino, my people, Indigenous, my people. I left that because the housing market, but I still have a business down there, and I still spend my money with my people when I go down there. Not entirely, because my people don't own all of the stores and businesses down there, but I do spend my money in my community with my people. And I have clients with the Arabs, and my brothers and sisters as well. So, messages helpful review. This message. Now, several things influence our youth. Crazy rap records and looking at almost calling them. Oh, yeah. Careful, Uncle. YouTube, they already flagging your comments on here. Yeah. Well, look, yes, true. But you got to remember, hip hop was hijacked in the 90s, and it was hijacked by the record industry, the conglomerate corporations, and with some government involvement, whether at the local level or state level. We can sit here and argue about that, but ultimately they took it over and they redirected hip hop, because the hip hop I grew up on inspired me. As a matter of fact, the hip hop that I grew up on partly made me the man who I am today. So I understand what you're saying with that, Uncle. Yes, they use that. I mean, just like in any society that the system wants to control the people, they'll use certain mechanisms and in place. And we love music. They said we can't have this inspirational rap, with Chuck D, Public Enemy, and others like-minded. We have to remove that and put another dynamic in there, which is a destructive way of communicating to our people, and it'll change the whole narrative, and our people being influenced by that to destroy each other. Right. We are supposed to realize that you don't sell your mother down the street for a nickel, for a white house and a picket fence and a dog. Right. And this is what they have been doing for quite some time. And it takes us to be responsible enough to say, look, we have to teach our young that they can't easily be pimped and played by this system, which white folks own, and that they are basically, and I'm talking about those rich white conglomeration corporations, these big record companies, and those who are involved in the undermining the efforts of our people to do what is constructive and progressive in our communities, for the better for our communities and our people. So that is true. Yeah, the white man to keep us down. Yeah. But we have to educate ourselves. We have to talk to our children. Parents have to talk to their children. You must talk to your children. Look, and the parents have to educate themselves in order for you to teach and educate your children, because an ignorant parent is not going to be able to teach their children to be better than they were. So if you're stuck on ignorance, that means, look, you're going to let the system educate your children morally. I'm not talking about academics here. When I say that's like you have a child, and you find out he's bullying in school. So that means that you waited or your conversations with that child wasn't strong enough. It didn't get across that threshold, that barrier, that brain barrier, for the child, for it to sink in that, well, you know what, I shouldn't be going to school bullying people. I shouldn't be trying to hurt my young brothers and sisters in the school who are my peers. Some parents come off as hostile. If he even looks at you wrong, no boys that look at you wrong, you punch him in the face. This is some of the attitudes and mentalities our people have. I have a 15-year-old girl and an 8-year-old son, and they have gotten accolades for their behaviors in class. Accolades, a far cry from my own upbringing. Unc, and being that I was lost from our family, being adopted early on in my life, it had a huge toll on me emotionally, psychologically. I was a wreck in school, an absolute wreck. I was in 5 foster homes before I was adopted. These people put me through hell as a child and expected me to come out of a rose, a flower. I've been in a rose later, but there was some thorns there. So this is something through tragedy of the breaking up of the families. This institutionalized psychological dysfunction called foster care and Bureau of Child Welfare, and all these institutions are supposed to be in place there. And I agree. In some instances, those entities are needed, but sometimes they do more harm than they do good. And when they step in, they're really not there to help. They're really there to hurt, depending on who is holding the pen and pad, and what their motives or ulterior motives are towards the family, or towards the child or the children. They'll help those who have their own business support them. Yes. Hey, Chief, how are you? Anthony. Hey, brother. How are you, brother? Anthony, it's been a long time, man. I'm good. And you? Indian history class taught by a white name, which sucks. Yeah, that's true. Right? The black dollar spent in more black businesses means less in the white area. That's right. That's right. We have to learn to reach out and find our brothers and sisters who have businesses, and whether they're on the internet, whether in our communities, and each one teach one. We got to learn to teach our people to be respectful. The children these days are only reflecting what they seen from the adults in the streets. Now, to get back to what I was talking about with regards to my children, they've never seen mommy and daddy fight. Never. And they don't really know what, arguing or screaming. My children have learned to sit down and talk. My son sits down and talks. My daughter sits down and talks, articulates herself very well. As a matter of fact, she's doing very well in English in school, very well. And I equate that to, I'm not saying my relationship's perfect. I'm saying that whenever I do have issues or problems with my child's mother, we sit down and talk. It's as simple as that. We sit down and talk. So people who are involved in relationships with families do fight, but it's how you deal with the problem, and it reflects on your children. If they see mommy and daddy fighting, they might take that, internalize it, go to school. Next thing you know, they're fighting with other kids, they're bullying other kids because of that internal pain. But a lot of people are really not aware of what's going on with their families, with their children, and all of this pressure, all of these problems just build up over time. And next thing you have a time bomb in your house, you're not even paying attention, you're not even aware of it. And I was just watching just the other day a news clipping on YouTube, a boy who was a little bit, actually he looked like he was about maybe a grade or two above this other kid. I think they were in the same grade, but the boy was just bigger. He was a lot bigger. He put his this other kid in a chokehold, and he passed out unconscious. Now the boy has severe brain damage. Come to find out that the boys knew each other. That the boy who got hurt really bad was at the other kid was at his birthday party at his house, and he was suffering because the big kid lost his brother I don't know how he died. They say he lost his brother and he was suffering. So the mother didn't want to really chastise the boy who damn near killed her child. Even simple playing like that. You see, so now the boy has severe brain damage. So they didn't say minor. They said severe brain damage. So again, and this goes through not just talking to your child. You haven't noticed that there are so many problems. Children are irritated, agitated, any little thing. Well, I'm going to ask this listening audience today. Listen to me carefully. When next time you go to the supermarket and you're picking up snacks and food for your, check in the inner aisles when you're getting processed food. Check the ingredients. Check the ingredients for that which you're going to give to your child. And then I want to challenge you. Go look up glycol propylene. This is just one sample. Glycol propylene. You will be astonished at what you find. What glycol propylene is? It's an antifreeze derivative. Stuff you put in your car. This stuff is in ice cream. It's in snacks. It's in what do you call that? Like potato chips and other processed foods. And I'm just giving an example of one toxin. This is one toxin that they're putting in the food. Now, a lot of people love giving their children junk food, and they don't realize that a lot of these junk foods are causing your children to act out. And this is why, look, I don't take my children to fast food restaurants. They don't McDonald's. They see the McDonald's, they see Wendy's, and no, they get a home cooked meal 9 times out of 10. And what I'm infusing into their diet, for the most part, it's not a totally healthy diet. I'm not saying, don't get me wrong here, I'm not saying I'm perfect and that everything I'm doing is perfect. No, I am on that path because I've noticed that as a result of what I am doing and not overfeeding my kids. I'm not feeding my kids 2 and 3 meals a day, constantly. You're poisoning your children and you don't know it. So when parents don't take the time out, and this is not a lecture, I'm just trying to give some insight into my own observations, because again, when I was growing up, I found out at an early age that I was adopted. My mother, she did not give me a healthy diet at all. No, at all. My adopted mother did not give me a healthy diet. A lot of junk. Baloney, that's junk. So for what I went through and my behaviors in school and what I experienced, I said to myself, I have to give back, because I noticed both of my children are doing well in school in terms of their behaviors. The teachers, both my daughter's 15 now, my son is 8. When my little girl was in kindergarten, first grade, second grade, third, all the teachers, what are you doing to keep your children so well behaved? My son, same thing. He's hardworking in school and he's well behaved. What are you doing? That's what they ask me. So I'm taking notes as my children are growing. And I said to myself, I need to give this information back to my brothers and sisters, because this is vital in our communities. Our children are at each other's throats in the streets. We wonder why. It's not just the public schools do cause. How you doing, Trippy Longstock? And I'm sorry, 93. I'm a little caught up here in my frame of mind right now. I'm trying to. But these public schools really do cause our children to break away those connections they have with family. Yeah, but it's not. I agree with you, but we can't expect them to do what we must do for ourselves and our children. We can't expect them to do that. I don't give the public schools total power over my children. I do not give them that much, but I make sure that I give them a moral education and of course of course, an academic as well, because everything that they teach in the school, that's right. That's nothing but white supremacy for the most part, except for math. Except for math. So I realized that this is something that I really needed to address. If we would teach our children, say, look, young man or young lady, whoever your child's name is or her child's name is, you say when you go to school, you respect your brother. You say good morning, or you say good afternoon. Some people equate this to being soft. How many children are we burying? So when they see mommy and daddy at every interval, saying thank you, you're welcome, almost not all day, but every day to some degree, they're being respectful towards each other. The children see this and they take this out into the world. So if you're not doing this at home and you're constantly fighting and arguing and killing each other, and how are we going to say we better than the white supremacists who are claiming that they're better than us? How are we going to say we any better? And I grew up in not the hood, but I grew up in a middle class black community where there was some hoodish type mentalities that I grew up in the Bronx. This generation needs to learn Native culture and philosophy. Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. But that entails many the cultures is a reflection of our clothes and things that we build and made. That's part of the culture. Our philosophies and wisdom and strength and understanding. Spiritual laws. There was a native brother who said, "I'd rather chop my arm off than tell a lie." That's a philosophy that I like. Deganawida, the lawgiver, he came to the northeastern parts of the United States when the tribes in the Northeast were fighting. I think it was before it was the Haudenosaunee Confederation. They were fighting amongst themselves, and he took an arrow and he broke one arrow over his knee and said, "This is you right now." Then he said, "This could change your perception of yourselves and what you really are." Took 5 arrows, and then he put over his knee, tried to break it, wouldn't break. He said, "This you must become. This we must become." And only way that we evolve back into what we've lost, this is what the Christ was talking about in being reborn. It wasn't going back up in your mother's womb. Our people are in transition mode, and that transition is going back to who we once were as a people, united morally and spiritually. See, we change our outer appearances in terms of some of the things that we wear in time. Even in indigenous culture, native cultures, Indian cultures, we change. The children will change. They might not want to wear some of the same things that their fathers or their grandfathers wore. We see that in the current generation. That's right. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's the moral spirit and the essence of the human being that is not supposed to change. That's supposed to be a constant. We've lost our way. That's why I had to touch on the issue of the children, because the children represent tomorrow. We represent yesterday and today, but the children represent tomorrow. So if we're not teaching the children today, then what kind of tomorrow will we have? The weather, the rumors of wars, the conflicts, the protests, what we're facing. Brother Anthony, why can't we see it in our hearts that we are better than the others? Well, that's not what our aim is. Our aim is to better ourselves so that we can become a shining example of what a human being is supposed to be. And that hopefully we can avoid the destruction that we are headed towards. So we're not trying to say that we're better than others. No, that's not what our purpose is. Our purpose is to be a shining example of what God made us to be. And that's a total human being. Better within ourselves because we are a part of him. We were made in his image, but the image is not just earthly. See, when a society or people have lost their way, they don't know the difference between right and wrong anymore. When we've reached that plateau, my God, no one knows the difference between right and wrong anymore. We're headed for destruction. The God that created us is displeased. So we are at a crossroad, and our time is oh boy, we are in serious peril. So that was one of the main topics tonight, and what I wanted to touch on, dealing with the children, and what we must do to secure a future that our children will see in this time that their parents have regained their sense and sensibility, and that we will begin to teach them better for a new day. We must do this. I don't purport to be perfect, but I have to say that God has given me the tools through my suffering to understand that what I must do to keep my child in line in accordance with God's laws and understanding is through not just teaching, but through example. And those examples come, through communication, through everyday life and actions that we do. And I am pleased thus far with my two that I have. Again, that some of us really need to take the time out, to see what we're feeding our children. And I reiterate, mentally and physical food is important. So if you're poisoning your child and you don't know it, take the time out to look and realize that these things are seriously important. So many children's lives destroyed because of lack of control, in school and in streets. Our children are so medicated up, don't even know it. They don't know it. We're fighting a beast here. They're poisoning us at every interval, without our knowledge. You look at Newark, New Jersey. The water system is just like Flint, Michigan, full of lead. And it's sad because they're saying that the water levels, the lead levels in the water is very high. And listening to the news reports, which I have been, they're saying it's not just in Jersey, not just in Flint. So they're suggesting that because the water, the situation seems to be popping up mostly in the Black communities, so-called minority communities. Is that by chance? Some of the white commentators on MSNBC said, if this was in my white community where I live, there would be hell to pay. So they know that these things are, present. Lead destroys the brain. You got to watch what you're feeding your babies. They know that people love junk food. I ain't gonna lie, yeah, I do too. But I make sure that my children are less, exposed or absorbed to that. And I try to teach them fasting. My daughter, she's very good with that. She'll go sometimes a day and a half without eating. So how can you do that to your child? My daughter she's all right. She's all right when it comes to, not eating she'll go to school, won't have nothing to eat. Wait till she get home. She's fine. I said, look, if children in other countries, they're learning 4 and 5 languages, don't have a meal sometimes for a day or 2, maybe 3 days, and they're learning multiple languages. I'm sure I spoke about this in one of my other videos, but I have to, speak about this again. They're coming over here. We barely know English. And we're going to say, well, my child has got to eat. I can't do that to my child. But I tell you what it's done for my children. It's teaching them discipline. I'm very proud of them. They're doing well in school. Just need to teach the next generation about fasting, but fasting isn't really starving. It's about alkalizing, which is vegan. I mean, I've seen. I agree with you to a point, Longstocking. I've seen people who've gone vegan and have perished as a result of it's the quality of the food. Don't get me wrong. Yes, I believe in veganism. I do. But appropriation to that which is still important in the body. You need protein. You need other nutrients. Some people go vegan and they forget that there's certain vegetables that don't have those nutrients that your body needs. Next thing you know, your body is starving, is crying, oh God, and then everything shuts down. Bang. This is what I've learned over the years. But I agree with you. We do definitely, because most of us don't have canines. And I say most of us because I've seen some people with teeth. I had to pause for a minute. I was thinking Transylvania's. Whew. But anyway, most of us we don't have canines. We don't have canines. So we were meant to herbivore. We're herbivores. We're meant to eat veggies. Yeah, but we're a long way from that today. We're a long way from that. Even vegan foods are still fasting because people substitute vegetables. No, I right. But all I'm saying is that you can eat vegetables and still kill yourself if you're eating meals, 3 times a day. This system has us believing that we're supposed to eat 3 meals a day. I don't believe in it. We're supposed to eat really 1 meal a day. That's it. We can survive on 1 meal a day. I know I've done it for weeks. Just 1 meal. It's because, again, we're starving the system for nutrients. The nutrients that from vitamin A all the way through Z. Our body needs nutrient. We need nutrients. It craves. So I've known people who've just gone cold turkey without the meat and went vegan, and bang, they're dead. You have to wean yourself off, just like with drugs. You have to wean yourself off from eating, a certain food that you've been eating, and then you have to substitute, and you have to do it gradually. It has to be a gradual thing. But fasting literally is cleansing the body. Even vegetables can hurt you, brother or sister. I'm not sure, Trippy Longstocking, if you're male or female. So I'm sorry. I said brother. If you're sister, I'm sorry. Yeah. So if you are vegan, you have to graze all day. I fasted for 12 days. The most I felt like a new person. Wow. Yeah. You see, cleansing. All right, sister. Excuse me. So yes, that fasting is definitely good. It clears the colon. Of course, everything is connected to the cerebellum, to the left and right hemispheres, to the third eye, which is the pineal gland, and it clears you to see better, and breathe better. Yeah, I love veggies. You are right about one meal a day. Yes, fasting is good. Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Guarding is something that we do. So I wanted to just quickly summarize what I was touching on today again. With the the feeding of oneself, and your children, families. Our families are so uh, disrupted, if you will, because of the poisonous foods that we constantly putting in our system, and our children as well, and suffering as a result. This is something that we have to unlearn. Through channeling, through one's cultural and spiritual past, through study. These are the things that I have done over the years. I was an avid reader, of history, and those of you who know me, I, basically just learned about my culture not even 20 years ago, and that helped me upon top of what I had um, initially learned, and the religion that I came upon early on in my youth was Islam, and I've learned so many great things from the nation, and has kept me whole as a man, and it has me on a much better path than what this system has ever taught me. And most of our indigenous peoples know this, that we have been captive, and I'm not talking about just physically captive. We have been captive mentally, spiritually, culturally, emotionally, psychologically. We have been captive because we have been given a system that is not our own. So, and this is, until we realize this, we'll never be free. So if daddy can't be free, if mommy can't be free, then how can your children be free? So, and that, I believe, again, I reiterate, is very important. We must unlearn that which we have learned from this system that perpetually teaches us that right is wrong and wrong is right. So I love it. You are right about one meal a day. Yep. Yep. Sweet Kid Jack, how you doing? Long time, long time, long time. Um, so, and this falls upon this topic, another topic that I want to get into: rediscovery of self. Who are we? Where do we come from? And where are we now? The indigenous peoples here in North America, we vary so much in hues, hair textures, you know, um, and culture to some degree, although a lot of our cultures here are similar. Um, Put food out for man, which is good. Processed food, I hate it. Yeah, well, yeah, 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 absolutely. So, uh, the rediscovery of who we once was as a people, who we once were as a people, is something that's going to take time. It took them almost what 200 and something years to conquer our people totally here in uh, the Americas, if you will. The indoctrination, the process of change, a Western mind. Most of us have a Western mind, and don't think it's a bad thing. Some of us, because of technology, believe that we're in a better shape than we once were. That's true to some degree, But again, this was always coupled upon how can you replace technology with morality, and then not knowing the difference between that which is moral and that which is immoral. It contradicts itself. It doesn't work, and that's why a house divided, the foundations that it was built on was faulty, shall not stand. It will fall, and we are in the throes of that today. So, who are we as a people? Are we Indians? Are we Indigenous? Are we Native? Are we American? Native American? Are we, Jalagi, Penobscot? Um, so many different tribal names that we have today. Would we ever see a greater picture for our people to realize that we are amongst the darker nations, divided today, currently through the conquest and ignorance, if you will, today? Because some of us, we have old wounds from hundreds of years ago, and some of us haven't learned to see past those things, and some of us have been infiltrated. We can't see the least common denominator. And some of us have been misplaced or displaced, excuse me. We have been thrown about like leaves in the wind. I'll give an example, from Gayote or Geronimo from the southwestern United States, removed to Florida before, when he died. Should that make a difference? Yes and no. He was displaced, put in Florida as a prisoner of war, and he ultimately died there, a broken heart. I also think about, and I give the ultimate respect to Gayote, Geronimo, ultimate respect. Tecumseh, in his vision of uniting and allying the indigenous peoples, is almost still a fleeting thought today, because many of our people, we're still caught up in tribalism. We don't see the greater good. What my relatives did back in the day, natives need to come together, right? But here's the problem: we have so many different indigenous hues and hair textures now that's the only thing that we see, because you have your tribal group here, you have your subsidized group by the government, meaning those who receive subsidies from the government to stay afloat. And then you have those who are either they're fighting amongst themselves, or they're trying to keep their identity to a point where they don't want any outsiders. This is the confusion that the Western white man has brought amongst our people. As it says in the book of Corinthians, God is not the author of confusion. So who is a satanic mindset? How else can you explain us today and the landscape that we currently live on? It's nothing but one big ball of confusion. There are some who are making efforts, trying to build bridges and connect the dots. Yeah, I agree with you, sister. But again, some of our people, the problem is that we don't read, we don't take the time out to listen and humble ourselves. You must humble yourself if you're going to learn to go back in time. We're not going to pay, just this 10 or $15 to go to a movie to see historical versions of our people on the screen and say that's it. Because a lot of times there are people who will just go to the movies and say, yeah, this is history. Yes, that's it. No, no. It has to be there has to be a greater understanding of what it does it mean to come together. Like me, I wasn't born on an Indian reservation. I've had Indians from the Midwest attack me, telling me, "Oh, you're not native." You see, with these attitudes that we currently have, that reality, and it just brings me back to Tecumseh and what happened to him. Tecumseh and Crazy Horse. Crazy Horse was killed by, they say, by one of his own when he was arrested. You know, jealousy, jealousy and envy. One of the oldest, a few of the oldest scourges of man is in the heart. Humility is something that we're in desperate need of. Humility. I don't know if you guys remember the movie "Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee" with that fraud. What's his name? August Schellingbird, who played Sitting Bull. Yatanka Yatanka, huh? Remember when he disciplined the man who, the Indian brother whose children was sick, and he was trying to get them back to the lands, and he caught them trying to leave, and they weren't supposed to leave against his orders or whatever. He shot their horse and told them that they couldn't leave, and the father was upset. His baby died. He was upset. What did he do? I remember this part because it's significant. That was one of the biggest parts in there, because if our people do not pay attention to these little things like that, which is little things is really the big issue here. He was so upset. He hated his chief after that, even though what his chief was doing was trying to keep order, and he was trying to keep the tribe together. He was looking at the greater good. But because the brother was angry, he ended up hating the chief. And ultimately, if that's how the story went in its entirety back then there was no humility there. The greater good wasn't in even the Indian brother who lost his child because he wanted to go back to their lands, but they couldn't at that time because they were outnumbered and beaten by the United States Army. And his lack of humility it showed, and he wanted to get back at Sitting Bull. See, this is the problem that a lot of us have today. We do not see the greater good. There's no humility. It's just all about me. It's not about the greater good. So that's why I said, who are we? Who are we really when it comes to working together? When it comes to showing that we can rise above jealousy, envy, the destructive emotions that can't see the greater good, not for yourself individually, but the collective. Yeah, and that's basically that's basically what I wanted to get across, today, is that we must learn to rediscover who we truly and really are as human beings first, then everything else will follow. And when I say that, we must get out of the lower nature of self and rise above to that which God made us to be, higher natured beings. We're supposed to be, but we're acting in our lower selves. The Ganawida was on a mission to unite the tribes and the people to be strong. Strength is not just physical. Strength is mental. Strength is spiritual. Strength is emotional. From within. And the only way we do that is strengthening our spirits, is to learn about our past, learn from the mistakes of those before us, learn from those stumbling blocks that were put before in our people's path, and that to make sure that those same stumbling blocks that were put in our people's path, when they're put in our path, we'll skip right over them. That's how you develop real strength and unity. When you're building a temple, and I'm not talking about a temple made with hands. So, I think that about sums it up. Anyone have any questions? Want to make any more comments? Because it's what time, after 9 o'clock here, Eastern Standard Time. So I know some people in different parts of the country. If you have any questions, please feel free to comment, ask. I'll answer them to the best of my ability. I love my people, regardless of who you are, where you come from. I'm a human being first. Indigenous. What is our purpose on this earth? You would think people want change, but I'm glad you are here. Our purpose is to follow not just the image of the God that created us, but the laws that govern our hearts, or supposed to govern our hearts. That is connected to this. It's called rational and reasonable thought. The earth is out of course. All of the foundations of the earth are out of course and out of bounds, because a satanic mindset is controlling it currently, and their time is up. Really, they just don't know it. They think all of the global warming, so-called global warming that's taking place, the earthquakes that's hitting, they think it's a natural process. No. So our purpose is to live according to God's laws. Do unto your brother and sister as you would have them do unto you. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad said that is the greatest law. That trumps all religions. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure that out. Meaning, you don't do anything to hurt your brother. You don't do anything to hurt your sister. You don't do anything to hurt your mother, because we're all family. When to some of my Christian family out there, Jesus was when he was in Nazareth, the people looked up and said, "There goes Jesus, son of Mary, son of Joseph," and so, and he said, "No. He said, you are my mother, you are my sister, you are my brother, you are my uncle, you are my auntie." What was he saying? We're all blood related. But it's not just the blood that binds us. I mean, we all bleed the same blood red, yeah, but it's not the blood that binds us. It's our morality within our hearts that says, that ain't right. You better go right, don't go left, because if you go left, all hell gonna break loose at some time or another. So our conscience is put in place for us to do what's correct. Sometimes we don't listen. It's perfect. You hear me? I have a very, very great spiritual insight. Yes, I do. Because of the teachings that I received over the years. I'm not as perfect as the words is coming out of my mouth, but I understand what it is that in order for us to survive, what we must do in order for us to see the hereafter, because it's coming. And when I say that no, with no reservation. What we are currently experiencing with these weather patterns, with these wars and etc., this is the end time of this system. What is up? Okay, Corian Bell. I'd love to you, Sister Corian. Yes, to love and respect one another. Yes. But the word respect, it goes a long way. The word which comes from the Latin word, which means to look again. So what do we say when we mean respect? When we see other cultures of other people, sometimes we mock them. Silly people we are sometimes. We say things that are disparaging, or uncivilized, like take someone who speaks Arabic, take someone who speaks Chinese or Japanese. We say things that are destructive, and then we turn around and look and say, well, look what these white people doing to us. Look what this is. Look who these people do. Look how they treating us. Sometimes we become hypocrites. So respecting one another goes a long way. It's to look again. How many of us really do that? That's why learning and studying other people's culture and history is important. That's why I try to tell people, come here from other countries, learn about the history of the United States. It would be in your best interest because of the suffering of the indigenous peoples here, Black people here, so-called African Americans. Those who call themselves African Americans, those who are Black and indigenous. I have no problems with that, because I consider myself to be a Black Indian. And some people want to argue with me on that. I ain't got no time for that. But our people have to realize that respect is just a word. Actions that come with it. Are we easily angered, tempered at any little thing? We're sucking our teeth, turning up our face at somebody, because they look at you the wrong way. This system that we live under, these are all things that we were taught to act and think this way. We have a lot of undoing to achieve here. A lot of undoing. There's John Singleton in his movie, Higher Learning. That's what we're trying to do. A higher learning. Coming out of a devilish type of thinking, if you will. So many destructive adjectives in our daily conversations. A lot of people, so destructive. We're so full of laughter and not thinking about tomorrow. Our people used to think several generations into the future. We thought about the children 7 generations down. What's going to happen to them? We better make sure we procure a future for them today. But that came with serious thought and action. But we had structure. We had chain of command. We had principles. We had laws. In some of our tribal communities, you broke a law, you were warned. Sometimes you were cast out or put to death. We had no prisons. We didn't play that, depending on the seriousness of the situation. That's how we dealt with you. So the respect. Yes, thank you, sister. Yes. Sometimes the respect factor is really, it's overlooked. It's really overlooked. We really don't know or understand what that word means. When the first landing of the Europeans came, our respect was we opened our arms to them. We welcomed them with open arms. We fed them. We clothed them. We sheltered them. It was in our nature. This is what I'm talking about. This was our humble nature when the Europeans first landed here. This is what we gave to them. We gave them the clothes off of our backs. We gave them our beds. What did they do? So, they didn't just take our material wealth, and they took our ability to live righteously with one another. That's the greatest crime on the face of the earth. When your very spirit is stolen from you of who you are. There's no greater crime. And we're struggling here, bouncing around in the dark like savages, trying to find what's the meaning of life. One time we knew, because we lived accordingly. We did accordingly. We were in tune with the one creator that created us. And that's been stripped away from us. But it's not impossible for us to get it back. It's going to take time, but it's not impossible. When you start to believe in your mind that, then you're doomed. But you have to believe that there is that great possibility and actual fact that we will be restored at some point in time, and that our Creator has not forgotten us. No. And I'm going to close with that. I say our Creator has not forgotten us or forsaken us. In fact, He is here. And I say that with the utmost, spirit and soul of my essence, because He's showing us He will take these people out if they do not prostrate themselves, humble themselves to the God of all creation. He's warning them right now to the point of disaster, ultimate destruction. Did you see the locusts that were in Las Vegas, anyone? Did you guys see that? They were attacking people, had people running inside of, stores and clubs, and, getting in their cars and trying to get out of the air because they were everywhere. They call them grasshoppers, locusts, same thing. They tear up all your vegetation. Swarms. He speaks about this in the book of Exodus. These things are going to consistently get worse. Again, the weather, the droughts, the floods. You can't make this stuff up. I've read the whole Bible. Many times I've said this before. In the book of Exodus that we're in, Pharaoh is showing his behind. Trump and company, they're showing their behinds. You think you bigger than the God that created this planet and the all of the worlds in the universe, the sun, moon, and stars? You have nuclear bombs. So what? So what? You got nuclear bombs. So what? You ain't going to destroy what God created. Yeah, but it's not. Yeah, he's everywhere, but God is not what we have been taught. You see, you got on sweet K Jack. White man told us that God is some white man floating around in the sky. And some of us got us believing that he's some ghost or spook or spirit. No, No. And I humbly say this to my Christian family again. You read you believe in your Bible. Go to your book of Ezekiel when it talks about God. Go to your book of Daniel's when it talks about God. Go to your book of Joshua when it talks about God. Go to your book of Genesis when it talks about God. Go to the book of Revelations when it talks about God. It says God is a man. And he say he was white either. And the book of Revelation says he was Son of God, was woolly hair and burnt complexion. In the book of Joshua, it said Joshua looked up and seen God coming out of what looked like a ship, right? And he was a bronze complexion. Ezekiel saw a wheel. This is what the white man calls UFOs. Bear with me on this. Ezekiel saw a ship, a wheel, coming in from the North Country with fire and smoke. And as it hovered close to the ground, he looked up and saw what looked like a man. He said a man coming out of it. And you know, some people have problems with when I say a man. It's the word God is of Greek origin. When the Greeks went into Ethiopia and they opened the gates because they heard about these purple, blue, black people. They were black. I'm talking about this is the color that they were. Right? And it was Herodotus, Socrates. They said Guma, Oz, and Duma. It's an acronym. And this was the right before the start of the Western advance. And when I said I'm talking about the European onslaught, when Alexander came, because Alexander came less than 2,000 years after they went into Ethiopia, and they saw these purple black people, and they were living in a modern society. So wait, what? And they found batteries in Egypt. Come on, people, the information is there now. It's there. They found batteries that were over 2,000 years old in Egypt. They said, they were just using that for copper plating and get out of here with that. I tell people, look, do your research, do your studies. This planet is older than 6,000 years old. You've been lied to. You've been lied to. These people have lied to us. They have lied to us for 500 years in particular and 6,000 years in general. And when you start to break away the veil of secrecy on that, that's when you become a target, because you understand that this system that we call America is just an offshoot from Rome and Greece. That's all it is. So when the Greeks coveted what they saw, because they didn't get Ethiopia, they went to war against Ethiopia. They didn't get Ethiopia. Ethiopia was too strong. They got her sister, which was Egypt, which was formerly known as Kemet, the blackest land, the blackest people. They plundered. They ended up plundering, and they changed the whole landscape of Kemet and changed the name to Egypt. And over time, as the English language formed, the religious scholars, they came up with the concept of God. And that concept came from the word, again, or the acronym Guma, Oz, and Duma, which in Greek means wisdom, strength, and beauty. So now we have an interpretation of God that's supposed to be some white man in the 16th chapel in Rome, touching. Okay, I'm trying to make this real simple. Some people, and when it comes to truth, there's no more compromises with that, because we don't have no more time. There's two white people can't make me. They can't make my color. right? They can't make me. I can make them. They cannot make me. And that's a fact. Two black people can make brown, make red, and yellow, and so forth. So if Adam and Eve, who were supposed to have been white, made by God in the Garden of Eden, how in the hell did they make black people and every other ethnic makeup on the planet? Indian, Chinese, etc., etc., etc. It's impossible. If they were doing that, then we would see that today. So I ask to my listening audience, where is this God that they say exists today? This white God that's on the Sistine Chapel touching Michelangelo or somebody. Where is he? But I tell you this. I tell you what I've found out. I tell you what my God has revealed to me. You know, after my studies have brought me to Pumapunku and Peru, where they found mountains shaved in half, look like runways of something landing and taking off. They found the face of a black woman on the planet Mars in 1976. I ain't playing with the truth no more. Black people better wake up, because this God is real. The pyramids that we see in Egypt, they're all over the planet. They might not all look the same, but they were built by a society, a technology of people who are technologically advanced in more ways than we can imagine. You're dealing with a God that is so powerful. You don't know. This government, they don't know what they're playing with. And I say that and take that to my grave if I have to, because I know the truth. See, I was visited in the Bronx in June of 2009. Now, look, CNN, Fox, NBC, and all the rest of these, man, they're talking about these UFOs now all over the place. Then they're on the walls and the hieroglyphs inside the pyramids. They're all over the planet. But people who don't study and take the time out to research, they have no clue what these institutions are or what they were. They have no clue, because most people are not paying attention. They're not taking the time out to look. The white man is over in all of these countries, the archaeologists digging it up. He's digging you up. He's digging up your ancestors. And then he's coming back with untruths, half-truths, my aliens. When you look on the walls on these institutions, you see nothing but black and brown faces on the walls. But he'll come back and talk about aliens. And we suck that crap up because we go to the movies. Oh, yeah, there must be aliens. So I did my research. And then God came to me. He came to me in front of my house in the Bronx. It was a silverish light. And it whipped across the sky, just like Daniel said he saw a wheel that whipped across in lightning speeds from east to west to north to south. So when I saw this object, God said in the book of Revelations that the dead, great and small, shall be raised in the twinkling of an eye. And that's exactly what happened to me. I said, my God, my God. He's present in the world. Now, in the book of Revelations, it said that God stood in the council of the 24 elders. Some people have a misunderstanding that God is singular, not plural. Remember when I told you that the Greeks and their interpretation of the black Ethiopians, it said Guma Azim Duma, wisdom, strength, and beauty, the society and the people who lived as one. God is not singular. It's an entity, just like the organs in the body, the heart, the liver, the spleen, the lungs, the kidneys, all working together with the head. You think cloning is something new? They found inside of the ancient pyramids, or I like to call them as what they are, the Kunti. They found medical utensils that mirror the medical utensils that they're using in the hospitals today. You're talking about thousands of years old inside these institutions. Now, I know some of you out there who are listening to this are going to say, well, this guy's crazy, or he's a nut. Man, I don't care. Or they're going to say, well, what are you saying? You saying that God is a man? I'm a man as in many. And they are all powerful. Oh, all powerful. So we are faced with today with acknowledgement and humbling. Or again, like I said before, people will ask the question, well, you're saying if this God is real, then where has he been? That's a long story. I have the answers to those questions. I've been taught by a very wise group of brothers in my years, and understanding why our people were left to fend for ourselves from a beast that was put on the earth. Because when the angels, an angel just means an angelic being. People are angels. People, certain people in their thoughts and their actions were being or were asked, or they asked God, they said, you mean to tell me that you're going to let a group of people on the earth that are going to cause bloodshed, death, and destruction? And God said yes. This is very difficult, because I struggled with this for a while, but I understand it. I've digested it and I understand it. See, sometimes we need to be taught a lesson because of the things that we've done. You say, oh, I didn't do anything. See, when sometimes your parents commit a crime, sometimes the children pay for it. There was a deviation. I'm going to just make this short and simple. There was a deviation in history of our people. And God said, we're going to teach you a lesson. Just like your children. Your children deviate, you're going to teach them a lesson. So that's a bit extreme. Well, if you know and understand that our people have been on this planet for trillions of years, we didn't get here 6,000 years ago. That's his time, not ours. We've been here for that long, but there was a deviation. So God allowed a beast to come on the earth to teach us a lesson. And some people, when they hear this, they're going to, call me crazy. I really don't care. You can call me what you want, because you're going to see the weather. I've been talking about this for years. You're going to see the weather's going to get worse. and a lot of trials and tribulations that's coming. We are in fact at the end of this system of things, this way of doing things. It's all over. He was given 6,000 years to rule. The scripture says here is the number of the beast, 6,006. Let he that hath wisdom count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man. So who does that number ascribe to? But if you don't know the mathematical breakdown of the number itself and its origins, you won't understand it. The history, 6,000 years. Didn't they tell us that's when Adam and Eve, the first people on the planet? But they dug up Australopithecus, said he was 1 point some million years old. You see, when you tell one lie, and you get caught and you're trying to tell another lie to back up from the first lie. This was Satan because he was a liar from the beginning. He abode not in the truth. He is the father of a lie. So why do you think our Indian brother said, I'd rather chop my arm off than tell a lie? But now here we are lying like crazy to each other every day, destroying our people in our communities. But who was the father of the lie that taught our fathers to lie? And we sitting up here wondering who the hell Satan is. When he lies to us continually. He lies to our children in the schools. He lies to us at the precincts. He lies to us in the courthouses. And we wondering who Satan is, thinking we got to have a heart attack or get killed so we can go either to hell or heaven. Get out of here with that nonsense. That's what white folks been teaching us for the past 300 and some odd years. Ain't nobody came back from a physical death to say, well, yeah, I know I met Satan down there. He was sticking me in my behind. Right in front of our face, and we still can't face the reality of what's sitting right in front of us. The truth that we are an ancient people, older than the sun, moon, and stars. That's right, I said it. I learned from my teacher, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, and their teachers, Master Farad Muhammad. I take no reservation or no shame in what I'm teaching. None. I'd offer my life for what I'm teaching. I've already put my life on the line. I don't fear no one. But our people have to learn that there is truth and there's a lie. We've been lied to. This flesh is real. And God made it perfect. We have imperfected it. Thank you, sister. Thank you. Thank you. You're giving us a chance to come back to him. Yes, indeed. Can all of us be God? We have the ability, yes, because he made us in his image. And just like the Father and the Son shall be like his father, or it's supposed to be that way, or the daughter like her mother. We have the ability, but it comes through study and discipline. I know, which is very difficult. because I struggle. I struggle in this devilish society we live in on a daily basis. God knows. So we must be objective in what we are trying to accomplish and attain. You know, man cannot live by bread alone, so we must learn the moral and spiritual self before we can go out and build the wealth that we need. There's nothing wrong with wealth. I got my hands on a few more books. I'm glad. I'm good, brother. That's right. That's right. Keep studying. Life is about learning. So building a house doesn't just mean that which you live in. It has to be a mental and spiritual house that you live in to sustain the dwelling that you live in. Or you might have all hell break loose in that house that you're living in, and next thing you know, there's problems in your house. There's conflict, there's fighting, there's destruction, there's death. Going, as the sister said, he's giving us a chance to come back to him. Yeah. He said, my people who are called by my name would turn from their wicked ways. You know, meaning we must learn about who we once were. The moral selves. We must go back to our spiritual moral selves and reactivate that moral and spiritual self within us. And then keep it. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. I know. Because when we go out into the world, we dealing with all kinds of spirits, demonic mindsets, all day, every day. And it's hard to get around that. You know, that's why I love to teach. I love to teach because each one teach one. We have to learn, we have to teach, and we have to pass the information on. Because Satan is working every day through television, through movies, through the courts, through the policing agencies, through the food. He's working every day to destroy us. Every day. So we have to work twice as hard. So the divine laws, God didn't just write these divine laws in books. He wrote them in our hearts. So what do you mean by that? Well, we know a pedophile is a wicked thing. Anyone who has children know someone mess with your child, you're not trying to go to the police. You find out somebody's raping your child, you ain't trying to go to the police. A good mother? Oh, hell no. It's not text. I'm not too American Indian Council. I'm not too familiar with the article to speak on it, but I know I have been fighting the IRS with not much success. I tried to draw on some indigenous lawyers, you know, and they're telling me there's not much to do. They said if you're not born on the Indian reservation, we can't do nothing for you. You know, I'm what you call a non-reservation Indian, but they don't acknowledge that unless you're a 501c3. You know, then you have to put your documents in, and it has to be a tribal group, at least 3 or more, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not too familiar with. You said that's about Article 1, Section 2 about Indians not taxed, and Article 1, Section 8 about Indians regulate commerce about Congress. Yeah, again, I'm not too. I'm somewhat familiar with the article on taxation. Yes, and that we're not supposed to be taxed anywhere in the continental United States. Well, yeah. I wrote a letter to the IRS, the government. Yeah, I'm a member of a tribe that's supposed to be deceased, the Congaree peoples of South Carolina. That's my bloodline from there. And I told him, how do you tax a dead man? Like, I was adopted, found my family 27 years ago now. Yeah, I can't believe it's been that long. And you know, they said, sorry, you're not on our Indian reservation. We're deducting. And that was that. So yeah, I'm not too sure about commerce, about Indians regulate commerce, about Congress. I'm not too sure. If you wanted to, expound on that, I would appreciate it. Yeah, the American Indian Council. Yes. I'm a great teacher. Oh, thank you, sister. Thank you. I had great, immensely great teachers in my life. So my adoption, I believe, was divinely inspired. My job is to give back that which I have learned over the many years. For me, being separated from my biological family, and then being raised with my adopted family, who they still are my family to this very day. And this is what I've learned. This is why Jesus said that when he was in Nazareth, he said, no, you are my brothers, you are my sisters. There are blood family members who treat each other worse than people who are not related. So what does that tell us? It's not about the blood. It's not about the blood. It is, and it's not. There's nothing wrong with family. Don't get me wrong. Immediate family members, brothers and sisters, close family, that's a beautiful thing. But the human family, and what God wants us to do, to resurrect the dead part of us, that part that is humane and civilized, truly civilized, not modern technology. That doesn't make us civilized. So yes, the humility of man that's something that we must resurrect. That's a part of the resurrection. Now, Jesus said when he comes back, he's not coming back to make friends. I tell you, I don't know what scriptures you read, but it said when upon his return, his sword is going to be dripping with blood. Why? They say God is love. That's what they say. But we know that if you have a child and your children are out of order, you're going to either try to correct them, or you're going to tell them you're on a road to destruction. Either you're going to end up dead or in jail. This is what we tell our children. So are we not God's children? See, some people are so arrogant in their thinking because you're an adult. I ain't no child. You was a damn fool. Because this God he'll wipe us up because of our foolishness. No different than a parent with their children, or giving them warning that this is where they're going to end up. So here we are in this country on the verge of a war, internal strife, civil war, race war, whatever you want to call it. Conflict from coast to coast, shootings, mass shootings, and these white extremists, white males running around here with these military style weapons. And then in the cities, some of the gangs of our people killing each other. We're not exempt, and we're not innocent. We don't teach our children, and we got children raising children. So I hear, well, the white man was responsible for, yes, but we have to make sure that these things don't keep recycling themselves. We must reach a greater audience to our people to let them know that there is a better way. My life, if my life, who I was taken away as a baby, Bureau of Child Welfare snatched me away from my mother and put me in a stranger's home. But little did I know that that home, there was a little G-O-D there in that home. He was my teacher. And he saw to it to start teaching me when I was 7 years old. He planted a seed in this brain of mine. Even though when I was coming up, I went through hell. Yeah, I stole, I did drugs, I did all of the things that this world has to offer that's destructive. It says in the book of Corinthians, he was born in iniquity and raised in glory. I'm not saying that's me. I'm just saying, in this society, we're raised in a criminal influence every day. The characterization of this country is of a criminal mind. It's everywhere. So now God says, when the children lose their innocence, know that the end is near. Oh my God. So children are killing. I spoke to the brother who I'm working with, and there hasn't been any more communication about that. I've inquired about her. The last thing that I heard was that she was still going to court to try to, obtain her kids. So I'm going to speak to him about it again and find out what's going on and try to get an update. But that was the last I heard, was that she was still fighting in court and trying to get hold of her kids. This is an ongoing problem, and, in this system that our people have to endure in the hells here. You see, the reasons why we are going through so much suffering and pain here is to, when we reestablish, or when God reestablishes a kingdom for us, we will know how to govern our own people again without the immoral behaviors, because we have witnessed immorality for 500 years, so that the new kingdom and the new rulers of our people would know, hey, we better go right and not left, meaning that we better go right, not wrong. We better treat our people the way we're supposed to be treated. And this is the lesson behind our suffering for 500 years in particular, for 6,000 years in general. That's good, sister. That's good. Yes, that's something that we need to do. Prayer is essential. Prayer is important. Very, very important. Keep our minds, So yes, that's what I wanted to, surmise is, that we have to learn from the mistakes of our forefathers and our foremothers, and that we should not trip over same stumbling blocks and commit the same errors or crimes that we so vehemently cry and are outraged over, and how we are being treated and have been for so long. So this comes with a great learning, a great wisdom, because once we are restored, that we shall have life abundantly forevermore. That's at the end of all of this. But again, we have to submit. We have to submit, and that's the underlying part. We must submit. This God he's not having it. He's not having it. Our people have to take out the time to acknowledge that there is a higher power and that he's just after us to do right and be right and stand erect, straighten up. Once we do that, then heaven will be revealed to us by God, and that we should be in heaven on earth. Anigido, peace and blessings, my sister, and it's good to see you as well. Until we meet again. Oshta Unoi, good night. All right, that's about wraps. I intended to be on here for about 45 minutes. The spirit took me. So, to my listening audience and to my uncle Anthony, not Anthony Thompson. I'm still glad you came on, brother. Though I'm glad you came on tonight. To my uncle Anthony, we gotta talk, man, because of that cryptocurrency and the gold bars. Yeah, that's I have some information I gotta share with you on that, and it's really important. Okay, and again, to my listening audience, this closes out another edition of Indigenous Peoples News Network. My name is Chief Eagle Spirit Dancing, and I will say Oshta Onoi, good night, and until Anigido, until we meet again, peace and blessings.